And when you're an addict, no matter what your addiction is, as a person that was really addicted to cheesesteaks, tasty cakes, pies, hot dogs, soda, honey buns, I understand addiction, and I'm addicted to the one thing that you need to survive, food. I'm just not going to go back to ho-hos and ding-dongs and wing-dings and monosodium glutamate and GMOs and all the stuff that kept me morbidly obese, looking like a reject from 600-pound life. Starting a business should not be something that's hard for you, even if you need to scale your business. Do me a favor right now. Shoot me a DM on Instagram with the word coach at TheBusinessBully, and we'll see what we can make happen for you. They're trying to make it go to rehab, and I say no. Absolutely not. Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to break this to you, but rehab is one of the biggest scams that is ruining people left and right. I would rather you take an addict and run them through the Kensington section of Philadelphia than to send them on a $30,000 spiritual retreat where they just walk through the magical 12 steps that's going to heal everybody. And I just want to sit up here and call you and, Shaquisha, hey, it's Dave. I have an amends to make to you. I know I used you and hurt you bad. And you know what? My 12-step counselor and my magical Monopoly chip tells me that I'll be better if I just help you by telling you that I did you wrong. No. Full stop. Nonsensical BS. We have got to understand that rehab is one of the biggest scams ever. Do you realize that 97% of people who go through a rehab program relapse? To quote the legendary Dr. Umar Johnson, you don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious? It's not donations, but it's gifts. Gifts, because that's what you're giving them. So you're spending $30,000. You're sitting there for 6 weeks and they've got the birds singing and you're sitting in your magical healing circle and thanks for allowing me to share. Well, thanks for sharing, Bob. And then you're right back at it. The same way we have recidivism problems in this country, meaning going back to prison because you can't find ample employment or entrepreneurship paths, so you go back to doing the same thing that you were doing that got you locked up in the first place in the same community that was set up to have drugs and guns and illegal things at your fingertips, but education, books, and vocations nowhere in sight. That's how rehab works. It is a vicious cycle of hustle. It is a cesspool of situations that puts you right back there. And all of a sudden you got somebody telling you to say these nonsensical Care Bear-like phrases like, the light in me sees the light in you, but you'll never see the light of day out of your addiction if you're constantly berated with, oh, this can happen. You can do this. You just got to dig in. And then you just got to talk to your sponsor. If talking to somebody was all it took to get off of meth, to get off of crack, to get off of heroin, then we wouldn't have addicts now, would we? At what point do you not realize that the fix is in? And I know there's somebody right now who's going to say, but Dave, you're sitting up here bashing people who are making an effort. No, I'm bashing a system that is taking advantage of people who do what they have to in order to develop the mindset it takes in order to make the change, in order to get sober, in order to get help. I tell people all the time, the hardest phrase for any person to utter out of their mouth is, I need help. And when you're an addict, no matter what your addiction is, as a person that was really addicted to cheesesteaks, tasty cakes, pies, hot dogs, soda, honey buns, I understand addiction, and I'm addicted to the one thing that you need to survive, food. I'm just not going to go back to ho-hos and ding-dongs and wing-dings and monosodium glutamate and GMOs and all the stuff that kept me morbidly obese, looking like a reject from 600-pound life. That is a choice, but it was not an easy one. And as a food addict, I can tell you that the one thing that I knew was that I could come up with a million excuses as to why I wouldn't go to the gym, as to why I wouldn't prioritize protein, as to why I wouldn't drink a gallon of water a day, as to why I wouldn't do 10,000 steps a day minimum. But what I don't understand is why you're listening to a system that was created by an addict who just switched one addiction to another. So the one thing I need you to understand is if you're following any 12-step program, you're following an addict who never truly beat his addictions. He just traded one addiction for a worse addiction. So let's run the clock back a little bit. About 90 years ago, a guy named Bill Wilson found a hustle that is still going to this day. It has outlived him, and it's called the 12-step program and also Alcoholics Anonymous. Bill Wilson was an opportunist. He was an addict, and he had multiple, and when I say multiple, I mean multiple relapses before his beating of his addictions. But here's the gag. Bill Wilson failed. He was just a different type of addict. He went from binging on alcohol to binging on LSD. And when LSD didn't do it for him, he did belladonna. You can Google this yourself. So you're following somebody who couldn't even follow his own curriculum, and you wonder why you're failing. Not to mention, I don't know if you know this or not, the reason that they don't cure diseases, the reason that you have so many programs for rehab, the reason that you see all these commercials during sleazy daytime talk shows about rehabilitation and coming to our Sunnybrook facilities and sitting around and becoming one with nature and sitting in your magical commune circle wearing linen sheets like you're on a Frankie Beverly and Mays jazz brunch tour, is because they make money off of your suffering. And Bill Wilson is the founder of all of that. And I have said this many times on this channel, in many of my books, and in many of my talks and lectures around the world. You can't divorce the fruit of a thing from the root of a thing. And if this thing is rooted in Bill Wilson's addiction-laden philosophies, you're going to have people who fail. 97% failure is 100% scam, any way you slice it. Do you know what you really need to do? You need to realize that the government makes money off of your addiction. The medical business makes money off of your addiction. And I'm not just talking about hospitals. I'm talking about doctors. I'm talking about pharmaceutical companies. I am talking about insurance companies and hospitals. You have to look at the entire situation. And as my wife will always say, you just got to follow the money. The money is there for everybody except for the addict. The addict's recovery is the last thing you want. You do realize that this becomes a medical situation. Why do you think that there were so many politicians who were paid off by different pharmaceutical lobbyists talking about we need to have safe injection sites? Because the needle people make money, the drug treatment people make money, the pharmaceutical people make money, and they make money on the front end and on the back end from the drugs that get imported in here and the drugs that go out of here. And then plus the drugs to get you off of the drugs, you know, the methadone and the stuff they stick up your nose, all of that good stuff is a moneymaker. So all you are is a battery. All you are is a coupon to cash in at any given time because they know that you are going to relapse. And when they put you in that bed for 6 to 8 weeks or 90 days or whatever the hell it is, guess what? They know you'll be back. And in the meantime, they'll find somebody else to warm that bed. That's why you have so many people addicted. That's why, if you notice, there's still no cure for the common cold. That's why you notice, even though they've got pills to get your HIV levels down to undetectable rates, there is no cure for HIV. Even though there are so many different walks and t-shirts and boxes of Honey Nut Cheerios for breast cancer every single October, not one cure for breast cancer. You want to know why? Because a lot of these organizations make billions with a B dollars from just allowing you to live with the symptoms or fight for your memory after you kick the bucket. It is the same thing for addicts. Why do you have all these marches for addicts and 5Ks for addicts? Because people are kicking off. And people say, well, a lot of those things are nonprofit. Every nonprofit I've ever known, including United Way, the Red Cross, all these medical nonprofits, the CEO makes money. Nonprofits have a staff. The staff takes a paycheck. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. Everybody is cashing in on your loved ones or your addicted personality suffering. That is why 97% of rehab fails. And no one has ever bothered to say, why don't we have rehab reform? Why don't we go in there and find out what's really going on? Why is it that we don't look at therapy? We don't look at physical fitness. Why don't we prioritize our health and what's going into our bodies? Because everybody's been bought and paid for. And every time you pick up a pipe, you wrap your arm and you put a needle in yourself, you are just feeding a system that is feeding off of you. They are parasitic leeches that are making money in the name of your healing, and you're not going to get healed in a place that is designed to make you feel good, but also designed to keep you coming back for more and more and more. So all they're doing is replacing one addiction for another, just like Bill Wilson did 90 years ago. So if you ask my opinion, you can take your 12 steps and shove it up your... Anyway, if you have questions for Ask Dave Anderson, you can email me at dave@businessbullyshow.com, and make sure that you comment, rate, subscribe, and share this channel to everyone who wants a wake-up call.